is the IFB Thursday night broadcast.
That's gonna work great, man. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're live.
Yes,
Hello,
I'm
Tipsy
alive.
Toaster. Yes, you are. We are. Welcome to season 6, everyone. IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. This is our 6th season of award-winning pop culture, sci-fi news and entertainment. And I'm New York Pete, your co-host. My best buddy, Chris, the Tipsy Toaster, is
Hi.
with us here as well. And Chris and I, we bring our unique twist from growing up watching all the great TV and reading books and comics and every cartoons and going to conventions and all that
Buying
great
cool stuff.
Oh hell yeah, from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we are really big Battlestar Galactica fans. So here we are. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. We're glad
And
you are here.
absolutely. Tonight is going to be great. We have Tiny Bean Tara with us in the
Tiny
green
Bean
room.
Tara.
And then, of course, Jack Stauffer, Lieutenant Bojay, is going to be on with us, and we're going to talk
No,
all
you
about.
did not call him the correct name.
Oh, that's right. It's Chuck Tyler
Chuck Tyler.
from All My Children, 70 to 73. And so he'll be on, and we have he's recurring special guest here, VIP guest on IFB, and obviously his connection is he was Lieutenant Bojay from Battlestar Galactica, classic Battlestar Galactica, but he had a full career, before and after. And so tonight we invited him back to tell us a lot about what it's like to be on daytime television, specifically, All My Children. And, it's interesting. We'll get into details when he comes on, but, how time has affected, the show and the background and stuff like that. And it impacts a lot of TV.
Yes.
Especially what may be considered like, quote, older television, especially series that are on for many years. And so we'll get into that later. But in the meantime, let's toast the fans. Welcome, everybody.
We got to recognize everybody. So here we go.
Yes, it's important that we do, because that's what we always do. And
What do you got for toasting tonight? Wait a
I
minute.
have.
Where's Tara? We got to get Tara.
I have
Hang on.
tea,
Tara
special
available?
tea.
Tara,
Not
Tara
like
got
your
the box
tea,
wine?
but just regular tea.
Tara got the box wine?
There we go.
There you
Tiny
go.
Bean, what's up?
Oops, hang on.
It's going. So, go ahead, Chris. I know you're anxious.
Oh, always anxious.
Yeah.
I just got my ambrosia, so I'm ready to go. Also
Cool.
known as tequila and some
Very
other
good.
things.
Some other things.
Some other
Yes.
to
Hint.
make it green and tasty.
Oh,
Tequila is
yeah.
smooth. Anyways, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We always toast the fans because the people that really are the most important part of a fandom is the fan. Because, I mean, great that the actors and everybody else are out there, but you, the fans, the people who watch this, the people who go back and find things, people who buy stuff, the people we talk to at cons, our people, our family. It's great to have you on board, and we hear you every Thursday. So we always want to say thank you for showing up and give you a toast because
Fans fuel the fleet.
Yes.
So so Tara, you know that.
Tequila in that one. Woo.
Oh boy, don't. Yeah, hey, listen, it is what it is. However, Tiny Bean, we put up an unofficial poll or survey for the new Battlestar Galactica line of figures that Factory Entertainment is considering for the Wave 2. And I just wanted to share with you some of the stats so far. And There's
Drum roll. I gotta
yes.
get it. I gotta get a drum roll in here
Well, you got
somehow.
to get a drum roll, but let's just imagine that in the back of your head, you get a drum roll, and boom, here it is. Uh, Commander Kane and Cassiopeia are the two leading, you know, figures that everybody wants on our poll, right? So Factor Entertainment has their official. We read off the characters that they're considering making, and then we did our own. And then that's followed by Spectre, Count Ibley, Chromed Cylon, and of course Lieutenant Bojay.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope they do that.
Imagine. However, I gotta tell you, there's nobody voted for Beryllian Noman and only one vote for Eastern Alliance.
Huh.
So I'm a little surprised at that. I mean, we're gonna keep it up, and then we'll at some point we will then we may keep it up indefinitely, I'm not sure, but then at some point we're gonna pass that on to Factory Entertainment
Oh,
from the
good.
fans, like from us, because they have their own, right? So
Yeah.
everybody, we put up a link so that you can actually go to the Factory Entertainment official poll that they have going. So if you want to find that, just go on to IFB, you click on that, and you'll see they have a bunch of choices which we read off on our previous show, and there's a lot of cool characters that we never saw
Never
ever.
got to
So
see. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
it be
yeah.
great to have some of these guys? I mean, Rigel would be cool. I mean, they
Yeah,
really got
no
to
kidding.
target some people who, you can get the autographs still from.
Oh, no
OJ,
kidding.
Rigel,
Oof,
you know,
that's
I mean, it's not complete without Cassie and Bojay. I'm sorry.
but we have to have
That
Count
should
Ibley.
be
yep,
So
bottom
agreed.
everybody
line.
get on and vote for Count Ibley now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Count
yes.
Count
Ibley, yeah,
Ibley's got
man.
it. Count Ibley
Definitely.
Inspector. I noticed you didn't put down Lucifer.
No, because I actually didn't want to step on toes with Factory Entertainment because
True,
that's
true, true.
on their
One of
list.
theirs list.
Yeah. So they did they we the list that we kind of made is listening to what you'd said and what everybody said when we announced it, and so it's sort of like the other, right?
Yep.
The others, and then how many of these favorites float to the top, and then we can send it off and say, hey guys, by the way, if you haven't seen our poll or our
Yeah.
survey, then
You also didn't put down Red Eye.
um I guess I didn't.
That's okay.
That would have been no, but we did mention it on the show. That'd be kind of cool,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. But there was a lot of, you
Puppets.
know, yeah, I don't think so.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Most
That's
people are
that's a
most
stretch.
people online are now like Puppets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nah.
But Lost
No
Warrior. Try
Borellian.
that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, no Borellian, no men. I don't know, man. I'm just
Nobody. Well, 1%.
nobody.
Somebody voted for somebody.
Yeah, time to grab the laser
No,
bullets.
no,
That's right.
0 votes.
Yeah,
Borellian
zero
no men.
votes. So you guys, it's up. You guys should go, drop, pick. You don't need to pick 6, 1, 2. It doesn't matter. Just get on there so that pick your favorite, man. Maybe just pick your favorite two. I don't know, whatever it may be. But it's out there.
You can see
And
my
don't
votes
forget,
now.
yeah. And the tributes are going to continue. So some of the Stranded Warrior individuals, cast and crew, above and below the line, will be joining us, and some unfortunately can't. So we're doing the tributes, and those will slowly be posted automatically. Tomorrow there's going to be another one, and then following will be a few more. And as we get confirmation on who can go, of course, Tiny Bean Tara is going to be with us at Shore Leave. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll be recognizing everybody. Tiny Bean, there's a lot that would love to come, but obviously,
Sure.
not everybody can make it. So I figured we decided it'd be nice to recognize everybody that made a difference, and made, besides the fans, right? Because this was a fan funded and fueled fan film project, but everybody that actually put in their time, right, their sweat equity, nobody got paid to do this. So like I said, above and below the line, those people are going to be recognized through a little tribute. We made like these little cards so to speak, Stranded Warrior cards. And so we put them up on our page. So stay tuned for that. It has a small little bios for everybody. And we want to thank them. And then, of course, we're talking about May, Tiny Bean, right? May in New York City.
Mhm.
It's very possible that we're going to have, the premiere, New York City premiere of the Stranded Warrior and the Tower Protocol. So that'd be kind of cool. It's not confirmed. We don't have dates
Yeah.
yet. So, but that's looking like it. But the big one, the big local, premiere at Lancaster at Shore Leave for the Stranded Warrior is gonna be phenomenal,
Oh,
and we're really looking forward to that. Of course, Cassiopeia and Lieutenant Boomer, are gonna be there. And so it's going to be fun, and you'll
Yep.
be there, and we
Hopefully,
have a
other people
table.
join us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be
it's
great.
Jack is
just gonna be
said that
over the
he
moon.
would be possibly attending virtually.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
That's
So we'll
fantastic.
we're gonna ask him again. He said he was
Yep.
on
So we
the
just got
last
to
time he came
arrange
on the
it and
show.
make sure we have a
Yep.
good internet connection, and we will
A-
be able to
And
have a
so
Q&A panel with Jack as well.
with Jack
Oh,
as part of our Q&A, wants to interact with the fans, so that's going to be so much fun that he'll be there as well. So it's just phenomenal, right? It's going to be a really good
just
time.
it's so mind blowing to when I stop and think for a second, I'm like, when I was a little girl
Yeah.
watching this, and wow, to be able to even be mentioned in the same breath with these people is like, wow, my whole life is incredible.
Oh yeah,
Thank you guys.
absolutely. So, Tiny Bean, you have a whole presentation.
Yep.
I want to let you know that I am almost caught up with Paradise, and it's good. It's
I
good.
know, I know.
Oh wow.
I'm like, I don't want to talk about it until like the season is really, really done because there's only been,
Yeah.
a few drops so far, but it is so, so good. I just absolutely love that show.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
besides that, a couple of the things that I have been doing here and there, not quite background, but sometimes I'll throw on either a Doctor Who, Tom
Mhm.
Baker,
Sure.
and I've also touched on some of the TOS Star Trek with, of course,
Nice.
the classic Captain Kirk, William Shatner,
Yeah.
and then BSG. I'll go back and I'll select an episode here and there, and I'll watch that. So, I've been kind of going back to some of the classic stuff and then mixing it up with your recommendations as well. And
Great.
then, kind of, I told you I watched Banachek. I finished the whole.
Yes.
It
Oh,
was incredible.
so
So,
good. It was so
yeah, I didn't.
good. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm mixing it up. I'm doing a lot of the classic TV shows and Mission Impossible, and
Oh,
doing that stuff here and there as time permits. So when you're done though, I wanna recognize everybody that's watching with us live. So I think do your segment and then stick around so we can recognize everybody that's on, and
yeah.
then we'll take it from there.
Okay, that sounds great. Fantastic. Y'all ready for me, Tipsy?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, if we are good to go, guys, well, hello, IFB. Great to be here as always. I hope you are all staying safe and warm this spectacularly snowy winter here in the States. Welcome to Tiny Bean's Corner, where we discuss new, old, and otherwise interesting things for the fleet's potential viewing pleasure. There is so much going on out there right now, guys, so many options to choose from. It gets overwhelming. I hear ya. So I have scoured the offerings and picked out some fun gems for you to try. But let's start with up and coming news tidbits because there's a lot. So, first up, the rumored X-Files reboot is becoming much more of a reality, gang. So excited for this. The great Ryan Coogler, fresh off directing his smash hit film Sinners, huge fave film here in the corner, garnered 16 Academy Award nominations. Well, he is at the helm of the new X-Files project. Word is His mom was a huge fan of the series, so it is very special to him, and that is always a good sign. Hulu has officially ordered filming of the first episode, and they have their first talent name attached. Danielle Deadwyler has been announced, possibly in the Scully-esque role. We shall see. Stay tuned, guys, because the truth is still out there. Next up, one of the most beloved action heist movies of all time was Michael Mann's 1995 classic Heat, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, my man Val Kilmer, and a host of other notables. Now, over 30 years later, the sequel is really happening. I mean, it is now officially in pre-production, and check out this for a cast of notables: Leonardo DiCaprio, Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, Austin Butler, and Adam Driver. And I'm told this is just the beginning. Well, if this is half the movie the original was, we will be in for an epic time. So be rest assured that I will be following this one very closely. Oh, and hey guys, it's time for some Bond news. Word is they are planning to start work on the new film by the end of this year. So, an announcement on who is filling 007's shoes seems quite imminent. They are saying that they are looking for a new take, a Bond origins arc, if you will, which seems to make it unlikely that early, older forerunners like Idris Elba or Michael Fassbender are probably not still in the running. But the hotshot young ones nearing the top of the pack include Aaron Taylor Johnson, Paul Mescal, and Jacob Elordi. Taron Egerton was also in this pack, but he recently mentioned in an interview that he doesn't think he's quite right for James Bond. So either he's being honest or he's throwing some misdirecting smoke our way. In any event, can't wait to get this started. It is time. I will be over here with my shaken and not stirred martini ready to go. In the meantime, check out all the old Bond films on Netflix while they last. And last up in news tidbits, believe it or not, guys, my beloved greatest American hero is back in the news. AMP Comics recently confirmed that it will be publishing a new book that brings back William Katz's crazy reluctant superhero. The new comic series will not only be written by Don Handfield and illustrated by artist Alper Gelsel, but its creative team also features the original greatest American hero himself, William Katt. Run out and get this, guys, on May 2nd, free comic book day. And with any luck, if it's a hit, maybe we'll see it back on the screen. Okay? Stranger things have happened. Now, in up-and-coming shows, I know I've plugged a lot of cool series the last few times in the corner that are happening now or quite soon, like season 2 of Paradise. Oh my God, amazing. And Monarch Legacy of Monsters this weekend. But I wanted to draw your attention to 2 new shows right around the corner. Check out Rooster, coming March 8th to HBO. It's a comedy starring Steve Carell, set on a college campus, and it looks charming and really funny. It also stars Danielle Deadwyler, who we just said is attached to the upcoming X-Files reboot. Carell said that this was one of the best pilot scripts he ever read, so color me intrigued. Always looking for a good comedy, and this may be the one. So check this one out on HBO starting March 8th. Next up, in the dark comedy thriller world, check out the limited series DTF St. Louis, also coming to HBO. This one starts this Sunday. It stars Jason Bateman, who, for me, always chooses good projects, so that alone is an excellent sign. It also stars Stranger Things David Harbour, Richard Jenkins, and Linda Cardellini. Great early buzz. And he dropped an awesome trailer. Check that one out. It's also written by Stephen Conrad, who brought us Ben Stiller's adaptation of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which was a fabulous film. I have really high hopes for this one, guys. So check this one out with me. It starts on Sunday for a limited run. Now, for reviews this week. If you are looking for an easy, popcorn eating suspense thriller with an epic winter backdrop, I got the goods for you. Check out the film Dead of Winter. It stars Emma Thompson as a Minnesota woman mourning the loss of her husband who ventures into the remote winter woods to carry out his final wish. But instead, she stumbles upon what may be some kind of crime situation. And it just all spins out of control from there. Now, this is Emma Thompson like you have never seen her before. At one point, I actually said, oh my God, she's John McClane from Die Hard. So when you watch, you'll get it. Judy Greer and Mark Manchada also enter the picture, and they are pretty scary. This film is a whole lot of fun, guys. It's not reinventing anything or making any grand statement, but it's heart-pounding fun, extremely well acted, gorgeous cinematography, and a really solid ending. It's just a flat-out enjoyable viewing experience. Give me more movies like this, please, and thank you. Dead of Winter is streaming now on Disney and HBO Max. And that is all for the corner tonight. Stay warm, gang. Back to you, Pete.
Outstanding. Very, very cool. I'm looking forward to it. Now, the Emma Thompson movie, I had seen a trailer for it, and I didn't know what happened to it. I was intrigued. So now that you kind of reviewed it, I think I'll put it on the list because
It was so delightful. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think, and it was tight, it was focused. Everybody was great in it. It was just a fun ride. I love just straight, solid, fun enjoyment. I mean, that's what it's all about.
yeah, of course. What the heck? Especially when the weather's cold and you're not going out. You got,
Yeah,
so what the heck? Uh, uh,
exactly.
So we have a lot of our regulars are on, and everybody's, always loves your segment, Tiny Bean. Everybody, we
My
all
friends.
of us enjoy, keeping up with what's going on. Of course, none other than, Jack is in the green room waiting. And so we're going to have fun with Jack in a few minutes. However, I did want to, just quickly recognize, the gang that's on, right? And I know a lot, Tiny Bean, that a lot of we get a lot of viewers after the fact, right? So
Yeah.
we're on live now, and then, around the world, which is mind-boggling that people in like Gibraltar watch our show. But Australia and down under and stuff, everybody watches from, different places and at different times. So everybody watches us afterwards. You don't have to come on live, but we appreciate you. But those that are with us, like Ken and Paul and Rob and Mike DeBrune and Rick,
Where is
George
your sir? Where is your magic mirror?
Giacomis. Oh, I forgot my
Where's your magic
special
mirror, sir?
magic mirror.
There we
How
go.
about that?
That's much better.
I
I love
I
it.
see you, Tipsy. I see you. I see you. Yes. And
Excellent, excellent.
we have to get a magic mirror for Tiny Bean too. So
Yes,
Ooh,
yes.
yeah, we do.
there you go,
Lola,
mediocre.
The
yeah,
chuckles in the chuckle patch.
that's right.
Stories
Let's
after
see.
stories.
Erica Persiani, thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing better. I know there was an ankle issue going on, and I think you are healing well. So thank you, and she'll be ready to come back on the show and do her convention update. So Kim Harms,
Stronger, better, more
yes,
powerful.
Bionic, sure.
That's right. My
Paul?
bionic girl.
Yep, that's right. Paul Rodder's on with us. Commander Kane, thank you for joining us. Chris Marshall, Eastern Alliance is he's got that in the head, can't get it out, but that's cool.
I
If you've
did
been
not
privy,
download that. I got to get that.
some of the artwork that he's been working on
Fun.
is just incredible stuff. I know Chuck is out there somewhere. Erica Riley and Rick Moreno, sci-fi author, award-winning author.
Awesome.
Thank
Hmm.
Rick's also co-hosted. Thank you for tuning in and following and being here with us live. And I mentioned our unofficial fact checker Rob Baum is with us. And I don't know, is there? I'm just quickly scrolling, guys. I know that Sean Shallow from Battlestar Bulletin Board. He's the creator, maintainer, the admin of. He's with us live as well. So thank you, Sean, for tuning in. Appreciate you. Hoping that you're gonna make it to shore leave. You're gonna keep us posted. I know that he was gonna try to see if he could move some things around in his schedule and come on down and join us at on shore leave or at shore leave rather. So that would be wonderful, man. I'm just beside myself on everybody that's coming, and it's really like a not only a Galactica sort of reunion, but it's also an IFB and Stranded Warrior thing all wrapped up into one. So Tara dropped a Magic Garden song reference and gave me flashbacks to pink squirrels named Sherlock. Yeah, that's right, Mike DeBrune. And of course, Bert Oliver Bomer. Yes, Bert, thanks for joining us. And anybody else that I did not see, I'm covering the IFB feed. So I know there are a lot of you watching on YouTube and some of the other Facebook pages. Thank you. And Karen's usually on as well. Thank you for joining. So Tiny Bean, any parting thoughts?
Just wow, guys. I'm so excited for shore leave, and it's not even March yet, and it's all I can think about. So
Yes, we're gonna have a great time, and we're putting together autograph uh postcards, for you and the others that were in the Stranded Warrior for you to have, so that you can give away personalized autograph those at the table. And we're going to be doing a Q&A, and it as far as we know, all things being equal, we're going to have Jack Stauffer is going to be on the panel with us when we discuss, we talk about film and filmmaking and the fact that, The Stranded Warrior is a fan film. And, Jack's been in the business for decades, and, he's got plenty of insights on everything. So it's a chance for him to interact with the fans because that's what he wanted. So we're going to try to make that happen. And we're looking forward to that. We're all very excited about that. So
yes.
yeah, and
Oh,
you're gonna be
yes,
yeah,
amazing.
you're gonna be there with us too, Tiny
Yeah.
Beans. So yeah, woo.
Like I said, just is what a dream come true to be mentioned in the same breath as someone like Jack or Lorette or any of these people who are just so dear to my heart. It's amazing.
Right? What I've said before, Tiny Bean, before you go, is that imagine you told your, child
Past self. Yeah.
self,
Yeah.
your past self as a kid, and you said, hey, you're like in awe of everything Battlestar Galactica, because we're all super fans, and that you're actually interacting with, you know, the cast members from Battlestar Galactica. I know that my kid self would be like, you done good. I'm proud of you.
Exactly. It's like life goals achieved.
Right? I mean, as a kid, you're watching this great show that we all fell in love with, and it's
Yeah.
like, imagine someday, right? We're on the East Coast. How the heck would you think that one day, Hollywood types, you're gonna be able to, interact with them or meet them, or it's like
Yeah.
mind blowing.
It really, absolutely.
Well, Tiny Bean, thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for your segment. Thank you for what you do. We all love you. We look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Keep up doing what you do, and make sure you keep us posted on everything they do with the art center that you're involved in,
Thank
and
you.
whatever it is going on, charities and
Yeah.
otherwise. Keep us in the loop so we can help
You're
you out
not
as much as we
you're
can.
not doing another
So,
Cindy Lou Who. That was just a repost from last year, right? Oh.
next Christmas, they are reviving my one woman Cindy Lou Who show.
Excellent.
So I will let y'all
I
know
saw
in
that
case you
posted.
want to
I was
take
like,
a trek up here.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. I posted like the 1 year anniversary, and then the producer's like, we need to bring you back
back.
next Christmas. And I went, all
Oh,
right, I'm in. Take a
that's
ride, guys. It's gonna be a
awesome.
hoot.
Oh yeah, you got to definitely keep us in the loop
Yeah.
because we want to help. We want to help and support all the things that you do at the Arts Center and all that great stuff. I know that you've been doing community theater as well for decades as well. So
Oh yeah.
we want to make sure we support.
Oh,
And if you
thank
have
you
a
so
community,
much, guys.
and everybody, if you have a community theater in your area, go support them. It's where people
Absolutely.
start out. I mean,
Please,
come on.
yeah.
Cool.
But
Here's
Guys
to
are
thank you
you,
so.
Tiny
support.
Bean.
There's you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, everyone.
See
Amazing.
you next time.
Love you, family. Bye. I'll see you soon.
All right, that's cool. I mean, it's incredible because you can tell when Tiny Bean comes on, that she's researched, she's thought about it. These are specific choices that she's making, the recommendations and
Well, she researches this all. This isn't just like, hey, oh my gosh, I got to go on again.
no, no,
This
no,
she
absolutely
really
not.
does her
So,
job and works.
yeah,
We really need to
absolutely.
increase her pay. Like, I don't know, like 5% more of nothing. I guess would be 5%
Yeah,
more than
zero
before.
times another 5%, still zero, but it's
Woohoo!
the labor of love, man.
That's
We're all
it.
here. We're all here because we love this stuff. So we are now at the daytime TV crossroads
Yes,
because we're bringing on
Chuck
Chuck
Tyler.
Tyler from 1970 73, All My Children, and we put the word out on some
Yes,
of
a bunch of
the
different
other
the
Facebook
soap opera
groups
pages too. So
that yeah,
hopefully we'll get some
oh
people to
yeah,
show up
so
there for
we're
some
hoping to
questions. So if you got
yeah,
questions,
if you guys are out there and you're watching this now with us live, make sure you jump on and give us a heads up, and we're gonna have Chuck, aka Jack
Jack.
Stauffer is here with us, and we're gonna talk all
Don't mess
about
up like I did with Chuck Taylor. But
yeah, I know that's a
it's
youth
so
thing,
hard.
man. I wrote it down, I have it in front of me, and that's why I'm not gonna mess it up.
It's got
But
it posted right above the camera. Chuck
yeah, where
Tyler.
you are. You should write it down and post it. But Jack's with us, and we're so honored to have him. It's a lot of fun always when Jack takes the time out, and I think it's a
There we
lot
go.
of fun. I appreciate it. Jack, welcome back to IFB. How are you?
I'm so glad to be back with you guys. But by the way, I listened to her reviews of some shows, and before we go to the golden oldie days, I have to admit I voted for all my Actors Awards, Screen Actors Awards, without seeing what I think is the best movie of the year. So I'm going to add a movie review to there.
Awesome.
If you have not seen it, I was not thrilled a lot with the Oscar nominations or the Screen Actors Guild nominations of all, but and I didn't like watching the screenings on my little tablet. But it's just come up on Peacock, and I think it's the best movie of the year. And I wish I could go back and re-vote, but I've already voted. But if you've not seen it, watch Song Sung Blue.
Oh,
okay.
really?
Absolutely, and they
I love
won't
me
give
some Neil Diamond.
they won't give the award to Kate Hudson, but they should. She's brilliant in this. This is a wonderful, wonderful movie that's got character, it's got depth, it's heartfelt. Hugh Jackman is terrific. You've got two young girls, young actresses that I had never heard of playing the daughters. Watch it. You'll just love it. It's just, and if you like Neil Diamond music, it's just really a heartfelt, really good film. And I think the best film of the year.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, aside from Wicked, because I am a Wicked fan, and they won't give anything to Wicked because it's too big and there's too much politics involved. Don't get me going on that. So anyway, I was just adding that in because I just watched that and just loved it. Anyway, so my first, you guys are out on a limb here now because I'm not sure there are too many people still alive that remember the early days of all
I
my
was
children.
70, 73. There's people still alive for that.
Yeah.
Jack, there's actual Facebook groups dedicated, 15,000 followers on one, like I think 20,000 on the other. So there are plenty of fans
Yeah. most of them will probably remember, if they weren't there from the beginning. Remember that show ran from 70 till 2011, I think.
Yep, yep.
I don't know. I was there the first three and a half years, and why I left we'll get into tonight. But most of them will probably remember Richard Van Fleet because he replaced me and was there for the duration.
The hair.
I met him when I went back to New York and stopped in at the studio, and he was really gracious, and he did a terrific job. But he had an easier time of it than we did in the early days.
Yep.
So tell me what you want me to do. Do you want me to just start with the beginning of this, how it was thought of and created, and how we did it in the beginning?
Yes.
Right.
And I have a couple of good questions that Tipsy and we went back and forth, and we wanted to. So yeah, you do. We want you to bring up your perspective, and then we'll dive in because there's a couple of very significant things with the history of older daytime TV that I want to delve into as well. But
right.
we want to hear you. You tell
Okay.
us.
I think what we want to do first, though, I would like to play a clip that I finally.
Oh God, there's only
there's only one. They're pretty much there's only one out there, Jack. I'm sorry. They were.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later tonight too.
Yeah.
But I actually have a clip, and I'm going to go ahead and show our viewers this clip. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long. Pretty good. And remember, this is the 70s. It is black and white. This is the time before.
Well, this is a kinescope.
Yep.
This isn't even videotape. This is a kinescope.
Yep. So this is kind of cool. This is something that not everybody sees. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over, and we'll watch it, and then we'll kick it over to Jack.
Oh God, that's Rosie Prince. Yep.
Stand by.
Yep. God, look how young Susan is.
What'd you do that for?
Well, I guess I like tearing things down better than building them.
Is that why you're so against Mr. Davis starting his youth center?
I just think he's crazy.
You don't like him just because he told you off.
Why should I like anybody who's against me?
Erica, Mr. Davis isn't against you. He just doesn't agree with some of the things that you did.
And I'm not going to sit around and be insulted. It goes for Philip Brent, too.
Philip did not insult you. Now, you tried to break him and Tara up, and he didn't let you get away with it. That's all.
He stood me up for the prom.
Erica, why don't you get off your high horse and come down here with the rest of us?
I don't want to be down anywhere with the rest of you. I want to be special, and I'm going to be.
What you're gonna be is miserable if you keep expecting everybody to fall in line with your ways.
Hey, are we having a hamburger or another attack on Erica?
You're right. Let's get some music going here. You don't let anybody get away with anything, do you? You know, you jump to conclusions that all people are against you, and that's what's so wrong. I mean, do you have to be the one that everybody likes best to make sure that they like you at all?
Yes.
Well, you've got to get rid of that.
No, I don't. And I also don't have to sit around and let Nick Davis keep coming into my house, telling my mother and me how lousy I am. I get even with him.
How?
I don't know yet. But there's something very peculiar about the way he thinks Philip Brent is Superboy. Bringing him that radio in the hospital.
Would it have been all right if he brought you the radio?
I wouldn't want that creep on my side.
Okay. Listen, let's forget it.
Mm-hmm. I will. After I find out what brought Nick Davis back here to the valley after all these years. And I do mean to find out. Just you watch me.
So that was I think I remember this. I believe because I know Susan and I started on the first day, and I think that was our very first scene that
Wow.
we
Wow.
both did. And because episode one, the focus originally was on Richard, and then I came in on episode 9, and Susan and I did our first show together, and I think that was the scene, and that was a kinescope they kept. And again, just for people out there who don't know what a kinescope is, a kinescope is actually recorded, into the camera. It's very low grade, black and white, and it was there, almost just to check to make sure, like looking at if the film had gone through the gate in a camera. And there were a few of those that were saved, and those kinescopes are the only record of the first 7 years of All My Children.
Wow.
Because after the first 7 years, ABC decided to erase all the tapes and use them again. So they erased the first 7 years of that show. But it's, so we've been brought up the word tape here. So now I have to go back to the beginning. And I'm very nostalgic about it. If I get a little weepy, just, please, because it was the happiest time of my life. Soap opera, but just for people out there who don't know the origins of soap opera. Soap opera went back to the days of radio, and it was always there, in radio for housewives to listen to while their husbands were off at work. It was a post-World War II phenomenon. Before World War II, you had the radio shows. You had Flash Gordon, and you had Little Orphan Annie. Radio episodic shows. But the soap operas, were named for that because they were broadcast during the daytime, and the commercial sponsors were geared towards mom at home. So it was sponsored by laundry detergents, household products, and stuff like that. And laundry detergents were the biggest, product. Hence the name soap opera. That's why it got the title soap opera. And they had been all the way through, and they were very kind of mundane, non-intrusive, silly things that, were really not meant to do anything, but I think, divert attention from doing chores and stuff. And then the generation changed, and this is what happened. The baby boomers started to grow up, and now you have to realize, coming out of the World War II era, and as the baby boomers grew up, this country changed, and we went from what I call the father knows best era to originally this very, very hostile, political aware, the most turbulent time in this country, except for the one we're in now. And I'm not going to go into politics, but 1968, 1969, America changed drastically overnight. Like I say, we went from father knows best to very politically aware, very divisive time in this country after Richard Nixon was elected president in a very corrupt administration. Anyway, so how did All My Children get started? ABC took a huge chance. They looked at the demographic of people watching soap operas, and they saw that the old moms now were grandmoms, and you had an entire generation of the baby boomers who were in their 20s and very active, and very politically aware, and wanted more than just bland, Dick Van Dyke television. So ABC went out on a limb, and this was a huge, huge risk. They decided to create a new soap opera that really instead of just being, pablum, really addressed what was going on in the world, from politics to the war in Vietnam, towards the very first part of AIDS. They addressed early homosexuality. They really got into the turbulence of what was going on in America. That's what they wanted to do, and it was a huge gamble. Agnes Nixon, who was the creator of it, was well known for writing soaps and stuff, and she was on board. It was her show, and she convinced ABC to take this huge chance. And in order to make it relevant, you had to make the centerpiece of the show young people. And so they went out and they found 4 young people and made them the centerpiece of this show. And those 4 young people were Richard Hatch, Karen Gorney, Susan Lucci, and myself. And this was, you have no idea what a huge gamble this was, because I want to say the shows were live. The actual term was the show was live on tape. And this was at the very, very, very beginning of videotape. And it's not like, as the years went by, every studio had their own tape facilities. There was one tape facility for ABC in New York City. And that tape facility, as tape became new and you were able to record things, that tape facility had to be used by everybody. So it was used by the soaps, which on ABC, All My Children and One Life to Live were the 2 soaps at that time. You had ABC News, and you had ABC Sports, which was really, really taking off, and taking off with Wide World of Sports. So you had all these people that needed tape facilities, and there was only one, and it was in the bottom of TV1, which was just off of 62nd Street, just west of Central Park West. And so how did we do this? Well, we shot the show live. And so when I say we did it live, it was taped, but it was a half-hour show to begin with. We had 38 minutes. I remember that distinctly. I said, wasn't it 40 minutes? It was actually 38 minutes of availability to the tape machines to do a half-hour show. And that included putting all the commercials in. They didn't have, the facilities to edit everything, shoot the show and then put the commercials in later. Everything was put in that 38 minutes. And it was an incredible orchestrated event. So basically think of it as a half-hour theater production, which it was. The show was shot in sequence. So, unlike what, most people think of if you're shooting a film, or even later on in the soaps when they had their own facilities. If you had a scene in the Chuck Tyler house with Grandma and Grandpa and Phil comes to visit, if you had 3 scenes in the show that was in that location, at a later time, you'd have shot all those scenes at once and then edit it and put other things in. It was much more efficient. Well, they couldn't do that. So they had all the sets of the time built on the soundstage at TV2, where All My Children was. And you literally went from scene to scene to scene, like you would in a theater production, which is why thank God I had my theater training, because the whole, physicality of this, a normal soap opera of a half hour until All My Children was basically a 20-page script. All My Children was 45-page scripts. So they really, and again, that's because you had an audience that didn't want to sit through long, dreary, mundane stuff. They wanted this to go fast. And it was because that was the new generation. They wanted their material. They wanted it to be timely. They wanted it to be angry, and that show reflected it. So now, consider this. How do you take 4 young kids who are just starting out in the industry and make them the centerpiece of this show and not have it fall apart? And what ABC did, and Aggie Nixon did, and Doris Quinlan, and all these people are dead now. Doris Quinlan, who was our executive producer, Bud Kloss, who was our line producer, our directors, Jack Woods, Henry Kaplan, who came from Dark Shadows over to us. These people surrounded us with the creme de la creme of soap opera. People who had made their careers, who played our parents and in the show. And these people included, of course, off the top, Ruth Warwick from Citizen Kane, who played my grandmother. Hugh Franklin played my grandfather. Ray McDonald, Mary Fickett, Fra Heflin, who was Van Heflin's sister. Rosemary Prince, who at the time was considered the queen of soap opera. They surrounded us with those people. And the great consternation at the very beginning was, why would these people who were the headliners in soaps be, how do I put it? I don't want to say secondary cast, but supporting cast to the 4 young people. And they picked the right people, and these people came on board and literally taught us, mentored us, loved us, cherished us, bailed us out time after time. Ray McDonald taught me how to read a teleprompter, which I really never had to do.
Wow.
Because I was always pretty good at learning my lines. But they were there. And the whole atmosphere on that set from day one, and in my 3.5 years, I think I told you I did 396 shows.
Wow.
I loved every day I was there. And so how did we do this? So a typical, the morning would be, if I should say the day before, when you finish the show, from one day that we had tape facilities from 4:00 to 4:38, and that was it. So when that was done, you went upstairs to the rehearsal room and you read the show through for time for the next day. And, it wasn't, you really almost had to read it. You tried to read it at performance levels because you really had to time this out to the second. So that was your first go around with the episode. Then you went home, and on the subway ride home from the studio to my home out in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn Heights, my apartment, I would learn lines. And then, I would let it go for the night. And then on the way back in the next morning, I would memorize them finally and come in to the studio. And you had one rehearsal. It was called a blocking rehearsal, and that was for camera. And then you did a dress rehearsal. We went to lunch and makeup, did a dress rehearsal, and then you did the air show. And the air show went from the opening credits to the end without stopping. So you could not screw up. And the choreography of this it was a 3-camera show, but you had 3 cameras that did everything. And since you shot everything in sequence, it had to be literally blocked out camera-wise that, if I was in the Martin house or that restaurant scene with Susan, right? So in that restaurant scene, if the next scene was in the Martin house with Phil and Tara, all right, you had to get at least 2 of the cameras down to that scene, which was on the other end of the studio. So, I mean, the floor of the studio was literally like a throughway with these cameras going racing back and forth to do this. There was no stopping to take the cameras down there. They went. Two of the cameras left, at always within the last literally probably 15 seconds of dialogue, and got to the next location, next sequence, and then it came up. And I spent many days off in the control booth because it fascinated me listening to the directors, call this. And each shot was called out, camera one, camera two, and that's how it went. And I just, absolutely adored it. Susan and Helmut, her husband, who passed away, has left us. Susan is now 79. The original cast consisted of 18 people, and there's only 3 of us left, and that's Karen Gorney, Susan, and me. We're the only people left from that. But what I loved about it was, again, right away, I loved the fact that I had a job every day of the week. This was a show. Now the studio and the production company, every 13 weeks, they had the option to fire you. Thank God I didn't get fired.
Oh, wow.
But I had a job that I could go to every day. And I tell you, I absolutely love that. And as we've discussed time and time on this show, one of the hardest things when I went to California and was, you'd get a job, you'd go through the audition process, you'd get a job, you'd have a great time for 2 weeks, and then you were out of work again. And you had to start the process all over again. I say, if I could undo one decision in my life, it would have been the decision to leave all my children. I'd have stayed there forever. Yeah, I loved it. And actually, I had already was thinking of presenting something to the producers and the writers, because I had a plot that I wanted to do for Chuck, because as we laughed and said, and anybody wants questions about the technical end of this, they can ask. The dynamic of the show was the star of the show, the heartthrob of the show, was Richard. And the story of my life, I was always the best friend. I was the best friend. Richard was the heartthrob, and yet Richard was the one who really disliked being on the show the most. Richard left after 2 years. He didn't like Richard. How do I put this? Because I don't want to make it sound like Richard was bad, but Richard was a California kid. And he liked his long hair, and he liked his scruffy look. All of you have been around Richard, knew his scruffy look. And there were formulas and codes that they wanted to keep to on the show. So they always made Richard cut his hair, which he hated. And Richard wanted to move out of the character of Phil Brent because he just wanted to do other things. And he was after the first year, he was just not happy. And yet he and I became close friends all through it. He never did anything to sabotage the show or anything. He always worked as hard as anybody else. And all of us worked our butts off on that show. And so, when he left, that's when they brought in Nick Benedict to replace Richard. And so that's kind of how they did it. How I got the show is really, really interesting because, I remember there were rumors of something going on in the summer of 1969 that ABC was up to something, but we didn't quite know what. And I think I told you that I spent the summer of 1969 down in Miami Beach at the Coconut Grove, doing a season of 5 shows down there. so that was an equity contract, and I was gone. I was on tour for most of that summer, and that effort to do summer theater at the Coconut Grove in Miami was a disaster. There was nobody there, and the Coconut Grove was a great theater, and I remember the cast that was brought down. They had names come in to do the starring role in the show, and then they had cast of young actors down there as a company. And I think I've told you in that cast was Danny DeVito, Catherine Damon, Paul Michael Glaser, myself. But those are the Catherine Damon, Danny, and Paul Michael Glaser went on to huge careers, as you know. And it was such a disaster that we did not do the last two shows, which kind of bothered me because the second to last show was Black Comedy, which I was set to star in. But, after, each show, ran a week. And after the first two performances, there was nobody in the theater. There was just nobody down there. So after three shows, they cut the program short and canceled the last two shows. And we all went back to New York. And, I was crushed because I didn't get to do the show that I started. But it was a blessing. And you talk about the luck of it. I got back into New York. And 2 days after I got back into New York, the audition, my first audition for All My Children came up. So if I'd stayed down there, I would have missed those early auditions. And I think, as I told you, I went in and I read the script and I remember who's in the room. I mean, I remember Doris Quinlan was in the room. Agnes Nixon was in the room. One of the directors, Jack Wood, was in the room. And I read it and I left out. And I found out years later that when I left the room, they all turned to each other and said, "That's Chuck Tyler. We just hired our first actor." But they didn't tell me that. They waited till they put the whole cast together before they announced us. And we went through at least 5 auditions. And the closer we got to getting this role, of course, the worse we got, because we were young and inexperienced. And we knew this was a huge, huge undertaking. And, you just, instead of, acting with confidence, you started to act like, please God, don't let me screw this up. And, but I said, I wish you had told me I got it on the first audition. I'd have been a lot better.
Less stress, yeah.
On the ones after that. But, so there were some things that went on, and these are, I'll give you some fun stories of All My Children. Now, remember I told you didn't stop. You could not screw up. Well, yeah, you did stop if a catastrophe happened. And there were actually 3. And I must admit, in the 396 shows I did, we only stopped 3 times. There was one day that we did not film, and you guys just had the fun of it a couple of days ago in New York when the snowstorm shut everything down. There was the big snowstorm of the winter of '71, where 2 feet of snow fell in New York, and we couldn't film. They couldn't get the crew in. They couldn't get anybody in. And the show was exactly 1 week ahead. So when I said, we were live on tape, the show was on tape. We were 5 shows ahead, and they wanted to keep that thing. And when we couldn't film one day, everybody panicked. And we actually went in on a Saturday and filmed that episode, which the crew loved because they got diamond time and stuff. But, what could happen to screw it up? And it usually, there were times, thank God it wasn't me, that somebody forgot lines so badly that they had to stop. And if that happened, like I said, you literally had 5 minutes to reshoot that segment. And so it just, it was a catastrophe if that happened. And I know several actors that it happened to, and I think we have discussed this before. There were people on that show that were really good actors that could not handle the pressure of doing this. and the gal who played my aunt, Joanna Miles, who was a classically trained actress, could not handle the pressure. And I did a lot of scenes with Joanna Miles because, and I remember distinctly, she would be fine in rehearsal. And when we did the air show, when we were live, I would just watch the sweat pour out through her makeup. I would literally watch her dress turn colors from the sweat that poured off her body. And they had to let her go because she just, it had nothing to do with her ability. She just couldn't handle the pressure. And as I told you, a year later, she won an Emmy for Glass Menagerie. And Bob Urich was on the show and lasted 2 months, and he couldn't handle the pressure and was let go. Yeah. So, the pressure of doing it really, really was intense. What made it easier for me was, thank God for my theater training, because I was used to doing shows in sequence. And we had really great writers on the show, and the dialogue really kind of flowed. And thank goodness, bad dialogue that doesn't track from one expression to the other is hard to memorize. Good dialogue just naturally flows. So, which is where all my training of listen, make sure you really listen to what your fellow performers are saying. So the response, you're playing the moment, you're not playing the lines. If you just try to learn lines, you'll forget them. And I was taught to learn the moment, or what's my motivation. We've had a lot of discussions on that. So, we had well-written shows that I would hear the line spoken to me and I just knew the response. But there were times that I didn't get the response right, and somebody like Ray McDonald or Mary Fickett would change their line next to it to cover my mistake. Wow. And that's why I say, when they surrounded us with those people, that's what made that show so good. And all my children,
it's like an improv,
with something like that, with a brand new show, the philosophy was, if we can get through the first year, let's see what our audience is like. And I can tell you, we got through the first 3 months and we were fast approaching the #1 daytime show in television. All My Children, within the first 6 months, became the most watched daytime show on television. It was that good. It was that timely, and the complete audience changed. It went from moms at home to watching it to young people watching it, because they were, we were doing plots, about subjects that concerned them. So, we heard stories after stories of kids who arranged their high school classes and their college classes around 1 o'clock to 1:30 so they could watch All My Children. We heard this over and over and over again. And, it wasn't very long before, laughingly, there were fans outside, the studio at the end of the day. And of course, who did they want to see? Was Richard.
Yeah, no way.
Oh, yes. All these young girls are out there, and Richard would go out, and I would walk out with Richard. These old girls. Oh, Richard, Phil. Oh, you're Phil. We love you. Oh, Richard, we love you so much. And Richard would go through this horde of young girls like a great white shark going through a flock of seals. And Richard went home with more young girls than I could ever imagine. Now, what about me standing next to him? I got the mothers. I was the hero of the mothers, because Chuck was the nice guy. Phil's character was much more antagonistical, much more had much more of the traumatic stuff. I think I've told you this before. My role was to be the best friend. I think my character was the only one who did not marry Erica Kane over 30 years of that show. But again, one of my shows that I had to do every week was called the Recap Show, which was always either once a week or once every 2 weeks. The show would just kind of the dialogue would be written where you kind of just went back and talked about everything that the last 6 or 7 shows was. And they were called recap shows. And I got all the recap shows. So I would go out and the mothers would say, "Oh, Chuck, you're such a nice boy. You're such a good friend to Phil, who's so hard." And of course, my character was in love with Tara Martin. Richard was in love with, Phil Brent was in love with Tara Martin. So I had to keep that secret. So because, Richard was the center point of the love story, although I secretly loved Tara. And so the mothers would come to me and say, "You're such a nice boy. You're just the kind of boy that we want our daughter to marry." And all I could think of was, I don't want to marry your daughter. I want to do to your daughter what Richard is doing to your daughter. And like I say, as a cast, we did things together. And I mean, we would all go out to dinner together. And we would get down to Chinatown, all go to a Chinese restaurant together. And that wasn't just the young people. Mary Fickett went with us all the time. A lot of the older cast lived, out of Manhattan. Ray McDonald came from Westchester. Susan was married. She didn't spend quite as much time with us, and she lived in Long Island with Helmut. But, Helmut and Susan and I, we did a tremendous amount of things together. Helmut and I would play golf together. Helmut, he was probably, if they know this, he was a master chef, took over for, actually became Susan's full-time manager and managed all the money in her entire career. But what most people don't know is that Helmut was actually the first alternate on the Austrian downhill racing team.
Wow.
Yeah, he was that good a skier. And we'd go skiing. And Helmut, this was a lot after I married Rennie. And, we would go skiing. And the girls would go much slower. Helmut didn't like to turn. He just liked to go really fast from top to bottom. So we would do we'd have the girls wait in the ski lift line. We would ski down. We would swap places with them so we could go up again. And the girls would go to the back of the line. And we would just say, Helmut at the top would go, Jack, say, now, see, we go there. See, we go turn there, turn there. We go very fast to the bottom. Phew, going down the mountain. And I go, we just waited 40 minutes at a lift line. And instead of having a nice 15, 20-minute run down the mountain, we're down the mountain in 3 minutes flat. So before I get into the 3 really funny things, I'll tell you the funny things. Is there a question now that you want to ask me about how
Yes.
we did the show? All right,
Yes. So, I personally wanted to know, you mentioned a little bit about the fans, but I wanted to ask you specifically, how long before people started recognizing you on the subway or in the street, right? So was it after the first year, second year? And I know at some point Richard left.
Yeah,
You must
within the first 3 months.
really.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And I have a classic story. Actually, I left the studio. Larry Keith, who played Nick Davis, and you mentioned in that clip, Erica mentions Nick. Nick was the villain, and Larry Keith was actually was a well-known actor. Actually, most people don't know this. Took over for Rex Harrison when Rex Harrison left My Fair Lady, and played Henry Higgins on Broadway. And Larry Keith was also played Strauss on Broadway in Titanic at the end of his life. So Larry Keith and I were on a bus. No, Larry Keith is the villain in this whole thing. And he's the one that's always making things rough for Erica and Phil and me. He was actually secretly Philip Brent. He was actually secretly Richard's father. And so anyway, we're on a bus going across town because we're both going to the same commercial audition. And the bus is crowded. We're standing in the aisle, and there's this woman sitting in a seat, this elderly woman sitting in a seat, and she had an umbrella, so it must have been raining. And she gets up out of the seat, and she goes, You horrible Nick, you horrible man, and you leave those nice kids alone," and starts beating Larry with the umbrella on the bus and screaming, screaming and yelling at him. And Larry and I had to flee off the bus. And we got off the bus, and she was still pounding the umbrella on the window. And Larry and I sat there, and I said, that's when we turned to each other and looked at each other and said, I guess the show's a success. and this was probably 3 months into the show.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Super fast.
It really, really, really took off. And of course, it set the standard for everything that came afterwards in daytime television.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many times did people come up and ask for your autograph, Jack?
It wasn't so much autographs because they wanted just to come up and tell you they watched the show.
Okay.
And only once, and again, Brenny and I were married, and I've told you about my first wife, Rennie Jarrett, and she was the reason why I left. And have I told you the famous dinner story of? All right, that has to come out. It's why I left. Susan and Helmut and I were at Manhattan Beach in the summertime, and just sitting in the sand, and I mean, the fans just flocked. So this was probably summer of '72. So the show had been on the air for a couple of years, and we just got surrounded by people. We had to get up and leave the beach.
Wow.
That was the only time that happened, and it happened to be once in my life. But now I can sympathize with major celebrities who can't leave their house without the paparazzi, and the people following them everywhere. But no, it was that was the only time that happened. But I enjoyed it. Part of part of being an actor is enjoying the recognition. And I got stopped on the subway, or I'd be sitting on the bus, and you'd see the furtive look, and then you would see somebody and they would look at you, and I would always look up and I would go, yep, and they would go, you're on All My Children. I went, yep. And every so often, and you didn't have autographed pictures with you or anything, and they would, people didn't have, iPhones, so they couldn't even take your picture. But they would come up and they would talk to me for 5 minutes, and I would chat with them. It didn't bother me at all. I was part of it. It's part of this business. You're in it to be recognized. I was glad that they were watching the show. And
very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I got a good one for you, Jack. For the earliest years of All My Children, original scripts are incredibly rare. Many were never archived, and some episodes aren't preserved on tape. That leaves us relying on fan transcripts, memories from actors and writers themselves. What's your earliest recollection of the process? Did you ever keep your scripts or notes or things like that?
I kept every script until I left for California. And I thought, I have 390 scripts here. Why am I schlepping all of these to California? And I threw them all away. The only thing I kept was the cover sheet from the first show I did. That's why I know it was episode 9. And the last show that I did, which I think was show 975 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, because we did basically 2.5 shows a week, so I was probably in half the episodes. Richard was, in more than I was, because he was the central heartthrob. But I still have, it's in my scrapbooks, are the cover, the beginning and the end. They're just the cover sheets. But again, I kept them all, and I went, why am I keeping these? I just schlep them with me. So no, when I moved to California, we chucked them all in the garbage. And
I got to ask you about the BSG stuff. Did you keep any of that stuff from
Nope.
Battlestar?
Nope. The only thing I kept snapshots that we took on the set. But that stuff didn't belong to us. No, I mean, again, once you finish the show, you didn't really need the script. It's why did you keep it? We didn't. And
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but
Wow.
like I say, I mean, it it was just, you know, your whole day. You planned your week. We got our schedules, literally 2 weeks in advance. So you kind of knew the days that you were on the show. The great thing was to be on the show like either Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or, and have the 2 weeks off. So you'd have the weekend and then 2 days off, Monday and Tuesday. In the wintertime, that's when I would go skiing. And then because I had days off in a row. But I loved getting up in the morning knowing I had a job to go to. And they paid us peanuts to start with. I remember, I remember our initial salary was $200 an episode. And so, my original contract was 2.5 shows a week guaranteed. So I was paid $500 a week. But $500 a week guaranteed in 1970 was, for a young actor, was good money. It meant I could pay my rent and feed myself and go off and do some things if I wanted to. It was a steady job. And like I say, I never tired of it because it was different every day. It wasn't like doing a Broadway show where you were doing the same material every night. The scripts changed every day, and your character evolved, and you had to evolve with your character. I can tell you the at the end of what I was going to present to them, because actually it was something that occurred in the news, and I thought it would have been great for Chuck. And I literally wrote out a 1-page scenario for this, and it was so close to when I was going to leave the show that I never really presented it to him. But I wanted to. There was a thing where there was an accident, and what is the religion where you can't get medical treatment if they're Latter-day?
Yeah, I believe
is
so.
it?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is it the born again or is
No, it was
Yeah,
actually a religion that they don't believe in doctors.
Yeah.
And it was actually a car that was involved with these people, and against their wishes, they were taken to a hospital and saved some lives. They saved their lives, but their philosophy was that God would save their life, and it was turned into a huge lawsuit in New York at the time. I remember, and I wrote that. I said, "What a great thing for Chuck if he's out somewhere, sees something like this, saves this girl's life, and then gets sued and gets brought up on criminal charges and has to go to court." That's what I was going to present to them.
One of our
and I
fans
think
said it was
Christian Science, I think.
Yes, Chris. That's right, Christian.
Thanks,
Science.
Rob.
That's it. And but no, they never did it. So
your character Jack became, I think, a doctor, right?
All right. So this is one of the great things about daytime, because we would spend, now when we started, we were finishing our senior year in high school, getting ready to go to college. And so practically the whole first year of this was getting out of high school and starting college. And then when Renee and I got married and I took my vacation from the show, this was the famous scene where, oh God, I have to tell the whole plot. Richard is gone. Philip Brennan's gone. Tara is pregnant with Philip's baby. Richard has been thought to have been killed in Vietnam, and Chuck agrees to marry Tara. So little Charlie, for people who've watched this show, was actually Philip's child that Chuck raised. So at the wedding, Nick, when they say if anybody objects, Nick Davis, Larry Keith, says up, "Stand up, I object." And he runs down the aisle and he punches me, and I fell and hit my head on the altar. And I spent the next 9 months of the show, or probably not 9 months, the next 6 months of the show at least, in the hospital bed, which is the picture I sent you. If you want to show that picture of me lying in the hospital bed, me lying with Karen, right? So remember, we're supposedly just in college now. When I got out of that hospital bed in the second half of 1971, I was a doctor. Yeah. So we just sort of skipped 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, came out of doctors. So I was really, I guess, very good in medical school and college. Breezed right through from hospital bed. But yeah, that's how they wrote me out of the show for for 10 days when I went on my honeymoon to Bermuda. And one of the, this the wedding, and again, I never speak badly of my first wife. The stupid thing was never marry an actress. But they knew I was getting married. And Rennie, stage name was Rennie Jarrett. She had done a TV series in California. She had come back to New York. We had been together, broken up, came back. She decided she wanted to marry me. So she came back to New York and went on Another World for a year, because I was still under contract to all my children. And she actually started and launched the career of Raul Julia, the famous actor, And so, our wedding was, a big thing, because who were you going to invite to the wedding? It was either going to have to be 30 people, or you're going to have to include the cast of her soap opera, my soap opera, all the people that she knew from doing Nancy and Hollywood. And, we ended up, instead of having 30 people, we ended up with a wedding with 400 people. We filled St. Bartholomew's Church in New York. And the ridiculous thing about it was that all my children knew when I was getting married. Now, on Thursday night before you get married, you have a bachelor party. And the night before you get married, there's, the dinner that the groom's parents pay for, which is just for the wedding people in the wedding and everything. And then you get married on the next day. So I told the studio, please do not put me in the show on that Thursday and Friday, because I'm getting married on Saturday. Well, they did. I worked 7 days in a row. I did all the 5 shows that week and 2 the week before in a row, leading up to my getting married. So I was a basket case, because I literally had to go from the studio out to Connecticut, where my family was from. We won't talk about drinking and driving. Get back into New York, do the show, go back out to Connecticut again, and then get back into New York, to get married. And I was so flustered and unprepared for this. My best man had to pack my suitcase for me to go to Bermuda. And he packed 1 pair of pants, 1 pair of shorts, 1 shirt, a bathing suit, a pair of sandals, and handed me the suitcase and said, "You're all set." And I arrived in Bermuda for 10 days. The first thing we had to do was go to Harrods in Bermuda and buy clothes. And no, that was that was quite a thing. And I have in my scrapbooks here pictures of Ruth Warwick, who seemed to be in every wedding picture that there was. And I will tell you that Ruth Warwick was the dirtiest old woman I've ever met. She would
Wow.
she would be she did the worst things, to me, because I did a tremendous lot. She and I would be standing, let's say, behind the sofa, and so the camera could hold a 2-shot, and she would literally grab my ass in the middle of the air shot.
Oh, wow.
Just to see if I would not break. And I didn't, because I knew it was coming. I just, it was, so I did it. But there were, are any other questions? And then I'll launch in maybe some funny stuff. And then the great thing of why I left. And
No, go on. You basically answered one of the things I wanted to ask you. Is like I had assumed that it was lucrative. Obviously, maybe not from the start, but you may have built up through the years on starting and then getting 3 years in, that they must have hopefully you'd made some money, whatever. And I guess
for that time, I remember because my contract was 70, 71, and 72. And then I was there for half of 73. And I actually negotiated my own contract for the last 6 months. And I remember my last contract was for $350 a show, two and a half shows a week. So it was like $850, bucks a week. For 1973, that was really good money. So let me now go to why I left, because I'm going to save the funny things. Why would I leave this? Why would I leave this? Well, again, you have to realize this is daytime now, has just really started to transform into being exceptionally watchable by a large percentage of the public. But daytime was always New York, and prime time was always Los Angeles. And again, it still had a stigma attached to it. And Rennie had a series in California. Screen Gems, Columbia Pictures wanted her desperately back out there. And I must admit, I had ambitions. I mean, I really, wanted to see if I could pursue, other things. So when Rennie said, one of the reasons when we got married, she said, the one promise you have to make to me is, when your contract expires and everything, we go to California. And I really didn't have a problem with that at the time when I made the promise. And then came the famous dinner at Auberge in New York, which is a very famous, fancy restaurant in New York. And at that dinner was Doris Quinlan, the executive producer, Agnes Nixon, and Rennie and me. And we had the escargot and the lamb chops and the dessert, and we're over coffee. And Aggie says, okay. She said, Jack, we know you're leaving. And, we want you to know how much we love you and we respect your decision. And then Agnes said, I don't want to get into this. Doris, why don't you just tell him? And Doris Quinlan looked at me and she says, I'll make this really simple. We don't want you to go. So here's what I'm going to offer. She said, right now you're making $350 a show with a 2.5 show a week guarantee. I'm going to immediately bring that up and I will offer you $500 a show with the same 2.5 show a week guarantee, which was a huge increase. And right then and there, I felt the claw of an eagle go into my thigh, which was Rennie sitting next to me. And then the words came out of her mouth, and she said, Jack, that's just not you. She turned to Rennie and said, that goes for you too. We're going to bring you on the show, and we're going to make you two the number one romantic couple in all of daytime. Now, you remember, if you know anything about daytime, Luke and Laura from General Hospital were the famous number one love couple in all of daytime. We would have been the Luke and Laura before that. And as Rennie's, she actually drew blood through my pants. She clutched me so tight. And all I could think of was, here we are, we've been married for a year. And we were looking at a income between the two of us of over $100,000 a year. And that was just the base salary. It didn't include any commercials we might have made or any public appearances we would have done, because all of that, Doris said, you'll go open a bookstore somewhere, and they'll pay to do that. You're going to need publicists and stuff. You guys are going to be famous. And that's what we want to do. And I remember going back to our apartment in New York, and Rennie turned to me and she said, no. And it was the first real knockdown, dragged out fight we ever had. And I remember to this day her sitting in the corner of the apartment screaming at me with her knees drawn up, you promised, you promised, you promised. And I said, we can go in a year. This was 73, and New York was changing. They were going away. This was the beginning of co-ops and not renting apartments, but turning apartment buildings into co-ops. You bought the apartment, and I said, my God, we're paying. We have no write-offs. We can buy an apartment, and you get the write-off, and rent will be making over $100,000 a year. In 1973, and she said, if you break your promise, we're done. And I turned it down, and I knew I knew it was wrong at the time, but I kept my word. Now I have to say, and the story makes her look like the villain. I always laugh and say, when we moved to California, it's like trading a baseball player. Rennie was the star baseball player, and I was the player to be named later in the trade. But I will tell you that I didn't know anybody in California. Columbia Television, Renee Valente, who was head of Columbia Television, Screen Gems Television, treated me really, really well. They actually put me to work before they put Rennie to work. And I can't say, we didn't work. What I hated was the fact that after every job, I never knew where my next job was coming from. And that, put such a strain on our relationship. But, as I've told you, I did 4 pilots for my own series, and none of them were picked up. And, if one of them had been picked up, I would have been an A-lister. And all my children asked me to come back 4 times, and all 4 times I was unavailable because I was either under contract for a pilot, or I was doing something, and I couldn't go back. And when I finally called in the mid '80s, after Renee and I've been divorced for 10 years, and Aggie was very frosty and said, "I asked you 4 times." She said, "Jack, it's no longer an option." But I don't want to get out into that. So but that dinner, and
Wow.
what would have happened? I mean, I think probably you don't know what would happen, but Rennie had been exposed to the prime time, and she knew what it was like. And I think if she had stayed and we'd stayed on All My Children, she knew I would never leave. I would take the money and the steady job and never leave. And I think probably she would have resented that in the long run, and the marriage would have broken up anyway. So,
true.
It's so I don't blame anybody for it. Things happen the way they did. So, the funny stuff that happened. Okay. So the three times they had to stop for me, that I was it. Wasn't my fault. The classic one was, it was wintertime. It was snowing, and it was Ray McDonald, Mary Fickett, Richard Hatch, Karen Gorney, and me in the Martin living room. And the scene comes in, and it's obviously Richard and Tara are madly in love, and they're having a problem. And so they go down, sit by the fireplace, and Ray McDonald and Mary Fickett and I are up on the landing. And so there's 2 conversations going back and forth with the cameras switching back and forth. And I have to tell you after this how we work the camera shots, because you'll love this. But anyway, so it's snowing outside. And so they had big, above the windows, they had big, long drums, circular tubes, which had, ivory snowflakes in them. So they turned, and it snowed outside the window. That's how the effect was made. We'd done it before. So we come in, Richard and Karen go down by the fireplace. Ray turned to me and said, "Chuck, here, give me your coat and I'll hang it up in the closet." And he opens the door to the closet, and the tube with all the snowflakes has extended. Somebody hasn't done this right. It's extended too far, and it's snowing in the closet. And it's very obvious that it's snowing in the closet because the camera's pointed in that direction. Ray McDonald didn't bat an eyelash. He just turned to me and said, "Damn, I knew I should have gotten that hole in the roof fixed. Chuck, when the snow is done, could you help me fix that hole in the roof? In the meantime, we'll just put our coats on the back of the sofa." And I tell you,
wow, so fast.
I'm dying. Mary Fickett is laughing so hard that she leaves her position on the stage and goes up and stares out the window because her mascara's running down her face. She's laughing so hard. Right? I can't say my dialogue. Because I've got no segue to my dialogue. I'm just trying to keep it together. So Ray says all his lines. He says all Mary's lines. He runs into this monologue, and you can hear the people in the crew, the camera people, are just behind me going, trying not to laugh. And finally we heard cut. And that was one time we had to stop. And again, at the end of that shooting day, the crew got, within 30 seconds, they got that boom of the snowflakes moved, and we reshot that scene and that part of the scene. Yeah, you had to, because that was the only editing time that you had. You edited that show on the fly. It wasn't like you went, shot everything, went back and pulled pieces of tape out and put things together again. No, it was all done in one thing. The show had to be complete. The piece of tape that went for broadcast was the entire show with all the commercials and everything in it. It was done all at once. There was, so, and it was very expensive to do that, because it put a delay on anything that was behind us. So, that was, one of
like
the other,
the NASCAR pit crew of, behind the scenes people.
Yeah. The other one that just stands out. My one of them was that we actually kept going through this. We did not stop for this. This was towards the end, because we had moved into the studios on 66th Street, so we were over in TV 16, and they were doing a lot of. This was a brand new studio. This was right across the street, literally from Lincoln Center. In New York, and a lot of the buildings that were being torn down and stuff, and new high rises were going up. New York was rebuilding, and I guess in a building very close to the studio, somebody that was being renovated, a gas main blew, and there was this huge explosion, and we didn't hear it so much as we felt the concussion of it and the pressure of it. And Ray McDonald and I are in a scene in the doctor's lounge, as I remember. And the flats, the walls started to go back and forth, because of the vibration. The whole building shook. And Ray didn't bat an eyelash. He just leaned his hand against the wall and said, "Oh, they must be doing some construction next door." And kept going on with the scene, and he just went from that to his cue to me, and off we went, and we did. And the other one that I just remembers me is the famous line, because I'm a young doctor now, and this was Ray McDonald. Hugh Franklin played my grandfather, who was also a doctor, and I'm the intern. And the line was, we were talking about a patient. And it was Hugh Franklin's line was that this patient has a myocardial infarction. That was the line. Hugh Franklin couldn't get that line out. He has the all through, the read through, the blocking rehearsal, the dress rehearsal. He couldn't get it out, and you just know this is coming. I mean, we're in the air show now, and I'm going, is he going to get the line out? Is he going to get? And Ray McDonald had a way of looking at you with this kind of half smile on his face, going, "I got you. Here comes the line, and I know you're going to screw it up, and we're going to have to stop." And he looked at you, Franklin, and so his line was, "Well, Charles, what's the diagnosis?" And Charles goes, "Well, it's obvious. It's Joe, I taught you. Why don't you give Chuck the diagnosis?" And he threw it right back in Ray McDonald's face. And Ray McDonald says, "Why, it's oh, Chuck, figure it out on your own." And that was it. God, we had to myocardial infarction. That was long. But like I say, we went, through and through, and the day I left, we had notes in chairs, and we all there were canvas back chairs, and your name it said "all my children" and your name on the back of it, and they gave me my chair, and I took it home, and I kept it for years. But I'll tell you one more thing about how did you shoot these things, and so. And it was really quite a thing, because in my script, now remember, everything's shot like a play. And for anything that says that needs a reaction from somebody else, whether it's just a look or a puzzled look, or did I hear that right? Or something, very important's been said, and you want to see the reactions on people's faces. They were built in to the camera shots. So I would literally have, and my favorite line was, you don't mean to tell me she's pregnant. That was the line, right? So now you have, it's broken. It's my line, because it was about Karen Gordy. And there were 4 people in the scene. And so you have to leave time for the cameras to cut to those people. So on my script, it was, you don't mean to tell me, and then the letter P4. And that stood for pause, 4 counts. So you don't mean to tell me she's, and then I would go in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, pregnant. And on those 1, 2, 3, 4, the cameras cut to everybody else's face, waiting to hear what I said next. Then the reaction shots.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, and every script you had them, and that was what made the show so difficult to do. Not only did you have to, know the lines and know the dialogue, you didn't shoot everything like they do modern days now. You don't, where there's a camera on everybody. You had to put all this in. So you put the reaction shots, went in as you went along. So you literally had to count the beats out. And I had them in my script all the time, P3s and P4s. I mean, it's, you would just learn to do it. I mean, are we going to see this movie?
Excellent.
Whatever it was. And, but, so I used to they were called, and you wrote them in your script. They were pauses for reaction shots. And if you are one of the people that's being reacted, the reactor, right? I had in my script R3, which means, all right, somebody else is saying the main line, and then they're going to go to one person, a second person, and on the third count, the camera that's on me is going to go on. So I had to make sure that I maintained the look exactly at that time. So if it was something like your mouth dropped open, or what, are you kidding me? That kind of look, I had to wait till the third count to do that. And you just learned how to do that as you went along. That was the fun of doing things, what we call live on tape. And it was theater.
It's an art.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the art.
That's just cool.
Yeah.
So Jack, there's a couple of things that we needed to bring up, and first of all, all these recollections are phenomenal, and we really love that you're sharing them with us. But we're going to shift things a little bit, and we wanted to let you know that there is a campaign starting to get Lieutenant Bojay made into an actual figure, an action figure.
It's again, that's whoever has the rights to those action figures. I don't know if those rights belong with the Larson family. Glenn's gone. I don't know if that belongs with Glenn Jr.
They have
or,
the rights.
I'll tell you, Factory Entertainment has the license. They've already released the Wave 1, and now Wave 2. There's polls and surveys going up, and they're asking the fans to come up with who they want to see, because they are actually making a large scale Viper for these figures. And so it's Starbuck and Apollo and Boomer and Cylons for the first wave. It's 6 figures that have already been greenlit. And so we're hoping that maybe we can get you an action figure.
We're campaigning for you.
On something like that, to use your likeness, obviously there would have to be a fee involved. And I'm sure that, Richard's gone, so I guess that's public domain. But I don't think you could do it without paying Dirk. And I know Herb would want to be paid for it, to use his likeness. It's how the whole world of sports became, and all these college athletes now are getting paid to play football because of the video games that use their likeness. So I'm absolutely, yeah, go ahead, love it. Just somebody would have to figure out what they're paying everybody and say, Jack, this is what we paid everybody else. Would you accept this fee to, use your likeness? And I'll say, sure.
Yes. All right. So we're one step closer. Outstanding.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, hurry up before we all croak, because like I say, when I think back on this, again, that original cast of 18 people, there's only three of us left, and to me, it's yesterday. I sent you the two pictures. Do you want to show the fans the two pictures that I sent you?
The
one in the where you're in the bed in the hospital. We put
in the
one
hospital
we shared,
bed.
That one came. That one went up.
Yep.
Okay, and
There
then the original publicity picture where I look like a Kennedy.
All right, that's coming up.
That's coming up.
So the other thing in the meantime, Jack, is of course Shore Leave 46 coming up July 10, 11, 12. We are going to be there. We've been invited. We're going to be screening The Stranded Warrior, and we kind of more or less discussed this, and your game for meeting up with the fans. We're going to try to bring you in on Zoom.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for doing that. I know there's a little bit of a buzz going on already, and so we're going to put that out again a little more officially on IFB. And we did contact the convention people. We just let them know that you have graciously said, you're going to be with us. So
I wish I could go.
Heck yeah, no kidding. We would love to.
I wish I could go, but that's where that is. That's too many plane changes and for me and so, and that's the problem with being confined to a wheelchair. It's really hard to travel, and you have so much stuff to schlep with you, and changing planes and stuff it's just nightmare. Not doable. But absolutely, I mean, do it through Zoom, and I will do all the panels. You can set up. That's the very first publicity picture. That was the All My Children publicity picture, and look at all that hair.
Yeah, that's what.
Look at you and your glory there. Awesome.
That was taken when I was 26 years old, and it's So that picture was taken in 1970. So 80, 90, 2000, 10, 20, 55 years ago.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's and that's, it just seems like yesterday, and it was such a vibrant time to be young and alive as this country was undergoing this huge dramatic change. In the very late 60s, and we all know what went on. We don't need to go into that, but to be a part of that. Living in New York at that time, it was just so vibrant and exciting, and which is why, like I say, if I could do it all over again, I would have stayed on the show. I just loved it, and I'm everything that, as my years went on, I can say that 90% of what I know about acting and directing, I learned from doing 396 episodes of All My Children. That's how good the people were that were around us. And like I say, it could have been, my year that I spent on The Young and the Restless, I hated. And because it had all changed. It wasn't anything like All My Children. And I didn't like it from day one. And like I say, it was one of the very few times, one of two times in my life that I was fired. And they fired me from that show. Great. I mean, it was great because they fired me, and 2 weeks later, Glenn hired me to go on Battlestar Galactica, which would not have happened if I was still on Young and Restless.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Well, you're getting a lot of compliments from the picture, from the fans. Hey, Damon, thank you for joining us. And Ralph Duran says, greetings and is excited for you to be here with us. Thank you for watching, you guys. Appreciate all of you. And, Jack, we want you to come back and talk about specifically your four pilots. Well, I
Okay.
would love to hear all about that and what could have been, and how they chose you, what the plots were. I think would be fantastic if you
Oh,
happen to remember the names of what they were.
Yeah,
I know them all.
gotta
I know.
find them.
I
Is there a way
Would
we?
l-
Yeah,
love it.
is there
I
someplace
know.
that
We'll
still has
we'll
them?
make that the next month.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Is there
Oh,
someplace that still
absolutely.
has those?
yeah, I mean, you know pretty much. I've told you the Doberman one, which
Yeah.
that's the one that broke my heart. But we'll revisit that. But the pilots, the pilots were great. I mean, they, when you get hired for an episode, you're done after the episode. When you get a pilot, now you've done it, and you hope that it
Gets picked
goes.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, and if it's successful, you just, like I say, it goes from AAA to the majors.
Absolutely.
And like that's why I would say called myself a good AAA player, because none of my pilots got picked up.
Well,
But I did a lot of pilots, as guest actors. Tommy Selleck, I mean, who was lucky. He got a fifth pilot, and that was FBI. And I was in that, got killed in it because it was a Quinn Martin show. But it was. I loved every day I was on the set. I loved every day. I was in the studio. I loved every day I was on the stage. It was what I was born to do, and I miss it. And
we want to hear more.
Not
We
getting
want
old.
more.
Right. Well, we'll save it. We'll save it for the next time. Let's say hi to Ralph for me. And I know that you mentioned a couple of the other guys that are, I'm friends with on Facebook, and I follow their posts. I don't post much anymore now. It's become way, way, way too political. And I just, keep my mouth shut. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And congratulations to the girls hockey team.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jack, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for taking the time out.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
We love it. Chris, any parting thoughts?
Jack, we really appreciate everything that you do, and you're always here for us, and we're just a reminder, we're here for you too. So
listen, you make my night. Once a month. It flows both ways. I get to reminisce, and for a little bit, I'm back where I was happiest.
Yep.
And so I'm very appreciative, and I'll see you guys in a month.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'll send you the date here shortly.
Yeah. Don't let me forget it. It's a good thing you texted me this morning.
Yeah.
Holy shit. But
Take care.
yeah, and like anything else,
Yeah, I think we're going to be reaching. Yeah, we'll probably reach out to you shortly in regards to a project with the con. So once we find out from them how we want to handle the you coming in, there's that project.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you about that.
Just you set up a Zoom, and we'll do it, and I'll just be part of the panel, and
Perfect.
if we want to, we can set up a Zoom for an individual panel. I mean, and the people can just ask questions. It's I'm available. So actually, I'm going to be at shore leave. I'm just going to not be there in body, but I'll be there for you guys whenever you need me for the con. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
I will see you next month. And thanks again to all the fans. Those of you, stay alive a little longer. And so I have somebody to talk to.
Oh, we're here for you. Take care.
Okay,
Thank you so
guys.
much, Jack.
All right. Night.
Fans for
Here's to you, Jack. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And a night with Jack Stauffer and Lieutenant Bojay. We talked all about him. All My Children, 70-73. Chuck Tyler, his character, and we took a deep dive. Tipsy. It was like a master class.
Oh,
I love reminiscing with him. He is so cool. A man of the fans.
No. Yeah.
Really cool. And wait till we do the pilots, right? We're going to talk about, I didn't get a chance to tell him, but maybe, he'll hear this afterwards. Not everybody gets to even do a pilot. Like a lot of actors,
they pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of them don't even get that far. They don't get to a position to do pilots. So that says something about your skills and your talents. So Thanks everybody. Appreciate you coming on live. Hope to see you again at the next show, and everybody that watches us later on. Remember, our archive is on YouTube, and we have some other projects in the making. We'll let you know about those next show. We'll talk about that. I think we'll be more into some of these other things, or kind of hopefully, maybe looking to divulge a early draft of a book cover. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah, we're close enough for that.
Yeah, we're close. So
but
we have things going on, guys.
That's it. But it's just fans doing stuff for fans. And because you guys are so important, don't forget to join us next Thursday. Same bat channel, same bat place, same bat time, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Facebook or on YouTube. Whichever one is your flavor, it's okay. We will do both. And, we're going to have a great show again. This was fantastic. I had a great time with Jack. But don't forget, like I said, follow us, like us, do those kind of things. And until then, until we get back into that broadcast location where we can broadcast another beam down to you from the Battlestar or Cylon Base Star, we'll get you, we'll get then. But until then, thank you for being here. And don't forget, you're our family, because fans fuel the fleet.
Fuel the fleet. Here's to you guys. Stay safe.